It's the season finale for the 2024 Prototype Cup Germany, and what a place to do it. Hello everybody, welcome to the Sachsenring. It was back in the third week of April that we gathered for the start of this championship in its third year, organised by the ADAC in partnership with Creventic. At the Spa-Francorchamps, the snow was falling, and in the end, the meeting was abandoned. Well, it couldn't be more different now because the sun is shining as the season comes to a close. The air temperature is 29.2 degrees centigrade. We have enjoyed what has been a classic season of racing in Prototype Cup Germany, and it all comes down to two races, one today and one tomorrow. One of the championships is very much decided. That has gone the way of Danny Soufi, but three other championships are very, very much up in the air. One of the main contenders, Keanu Al-Azari, the youngster who currently leads the championship in Formula 4 Spain with 4 wins, has been a man on a mission all weekend, and he starts on pole position for this race 11 of a 12-race season as we head towards the final of this wonderful, wonderful championship. In the championship is Danny Soufi and Torsten Kratz, who lead the way, but just 8 points ahead of defending champion Marcus Pommer, along with Valentina Catalano, and that car there in third place, 15 points adrift. Julian Apostolos and Riccardo Cirelli. Pole sitter Keanu Al-Azari, fourth in the championship, 27 points back. But there is so much to play for. A race today, and then tomorrow we will confirm the identity of the champion, both in the Drivers' Championship, the Trophy Championship, and in the Team Championship. It has been such an exciting season. Commentary this year has been brought to you by myself, Brian Oliver, and also the voice of DTM, Chris Hartley. And it has been an absolute privilege to talk about these cars this year, hasn't it?
Yeah, racing's been fantastic, hasn't it? And we might have the biggest grid out there, but it's been oh so close, the racing. The wins have been shared out. We've had 6 different teams, 7 if you include the Schumachers that guested last time out, have taken race victories. And the championship going down to the wire, as you say, 15 points between the top 3, 27 points between the top 4. And the driver fourth in the standings is on pole position for the 4th time this season, Keanu Al-Azari. It could be wrapped up today if the championship leaders, Danny Soufi and Torsten Kratz, were to win. Pommer and Catalano would need to finish at least 7th to stay in mathematical contention. Cirelli and Apostolos would need to finish 3rd. If Kratz and Soufi were to finish 2nd in the championship, then to stay in the contention, Pommer and Catalano would just need to finish the race, and Cirelli and Apostolos would need to finish in the top 6. But the problem for Kratz and Soufi is that they're not on pole position. They're going to start the race in 4th place. And they had their worst weekend of the season last time out, didn't they? With 7 out of 7 podiums at the start of the season. They've had 1 podium out of the last 4 races and only finished 6th and 9th in the 2 races at the Nürburgring 2 weeks ago.
So it's all a challenge, and constantly chasing. You've got to keep on top of it. And here at the Sachsenring, that is a challenge in itself because it is a tough old circuit. We run an anti-clockwise direction as we look at the very pretty Momo Gebhardt racing Ginetta with Sven Bart at the wheel. We run an anti-clockwise direction around this circuit, which is 3.645 kilometers around. It has 13 turns, 4 to the right and 9 to the left. One of the characteristics of this circuit is the big undulation. Lots of hills, blind crests, not a lot of overtaking opportunities, but plenty of opportunities to end up in a gravel trap. There is no runoff area around this circuit, and we've seen it already. Keanu Al-Azari, our pole sitter, had a moment in free practice that saw him into the fence, but the gravel traps are very deep here, so surviving on a circuit that is very abrasive, making the tyres last the distance, and getting to the end is one thing, and then scoring the points that are required is another. It's our first ever visit to the Sachsenring with Prototype Cup Germany. The cars look and sound amazing around here.
Yeah, and it's going to be physically demanding, isn't it, as you say, with the temperatures touching 30 degrees. And you don't get any respite around this circuit. Even on the straights, you're having to deal with undulations, blind crests, and the huge drop down the back straight from the waterfall, where they reach over 265 kilometres an hour on the way down to turn 12 at the foot of that final sector of the lap. So it's going to be a tough race for the drivers at 55 minutes plus 1 lap, particularly those that are doing this on their own, like Keanu Al-Azari, with no teammate to share the driving.
and that will have implications when it comes to the pit stop window, which we will tell you more about in just a moment. The ground is absolutely shaking as these 5.6-litre Nissan engines burst into life. The rumble can be heard throughout the neighbourhood as the cars start on their formation lap. Let's have a look at the starting grid. It's Chiana Alazzari who starts on pole position with Julian Potelos alongside him for the legendary BWT Muka Motorsport. Molnar Motorsport have the Azari car. Marcus Pommer and Danny Soufi line up on row 2. Gebhard Motorsport alongside Franz Conrad's Conrad Motorsport team. On row 3 of the grid is Jakob Erlbacher, another Gebhard cars with Antti Ramo for MRS GT Racing. And on the 4th row of the grid, well, lots of legends on the grid, aren't there? Klaus Abelin for Fricadelli Racing with Sven Bart for company. The instruction is given to grid up as the cars approach the waterfall, a massive part of the track, a steep downhill as they head towards turn 12, taken at great speeds, then the heavy braking in towards turn 12. Then it's a climb from that corner up towards turn 13, the final corner of the circuit. So you can see the cars now side by side. A bit of heat should have been generated in the tyres and into the brakes, and in a moment the safety car will peel off into the pit lane and we will hear that roar as these cars all fire up to full speed along the pit straight and in towards turn 1. It's Chiana Alazzari on pole position. He's in the blue and white car on the left-hand side, the pink car on the right-hand side with Julian Potelos at the wheel. So over the hill we come. It'll be 55 minutes plus 1 lap of racing. The lights are out and we are go. Chiana Alazzari already with a nose ahead as they head into turn 1. Julian Potelos having to think about the outside line. Into turn 1, Alazzari locks up, goes deep into the corner. That's Marcus Pommer who goes up the inside, but look at that. Danny Soufi, championship leader, into the gravel. A disaster, exactly what he didn't need. He's able to rejoin, but the whole pack has gone past, and it's Marcus Pommer who's jumped into the lead of this race. Chiana Alazzari with that lockup into turn 1, opened up the door. Julian Potelos down into 3rd place as well, but big headline, Danny Soufi to the back of the pack.
It's like everybody on the left-hand side of that grid missed the apex, wasn't it? It's almost as if there was some fluid down. It felt like they were all ran wide on that side of the grid. And Marcus Pommer from the 2nd row of the grid was the one that was able to just stick it through, get on that apex and get from 3rd to 1st in the race. Here's a restart, a replay of the restart, and the pole sitter, all good to start with, gets into the corner, but then goes straight on. Potelos kind of has to take evasive action, but all of them on that side of the grid ran wide. Antti Ramo as well, but the one that was furthest into the gravel trap was Danny Soufi. He had a gravelly moment in qualifying this morning as well when he was trying to get pole position. So the championship leaders who are already on the back foot coming into this race really are on the back foot now, with Danny Soufi, the American driver, in plumb last place at the end of the lap in 8th position. Pommer leads by 1 second from the pole sitter Alazzari, Potelos 3rd, and Jan Erlbacher with a good start up to 4th place.
Marcus Pommer is a 6-times winner in ADAC GT Masters. He's one of the more experienced drivers in this field. He's done a fair few laps around at the Sachsenring. He knew exactly what he was doing into turn 1, didn't he? He just kept it calm, kept it nice and tight into the corner. But now Danny Soufi up with Klaus Abelin in 7th place. So Danny Soufi challenging for that position. I don't think Abelin is going to put too much of a challenge up, or say that, he just shuts the door right in his face. But Danny Soufi fighting back up against Klaus Abelin.
Yeah, at least he got the car out of the gravel trap, and hopefully the tyres are okay. And because others ran wide as well, he perhaps didn't lose as much time as he might have, but he needs to get past Abelin as quickly as possible. Soufi at the moment having to follow him all the way through turns 9, 10 and 11. He'll try and pounce now on this downhill run at 260 kilometres an hour on the way into turn 12. It's going to be hard, but he finds a way through, dives down the inside, committed to the move, and Danny Soufi grabs a place back up to 7th place now for the championship leader.
So this race is 55 minutes plus 1 lap. 22 minutes into the race, there will be a pit window that will open as we get confirmation of an incident between car 80 and car 2 into turn 1. Well, car 2, that was Danny Soufi. Car 80, Jakob Erlbacher. When the pit window opens, every car will have 10 minutes in which they will need to come in for a mandatory stop. The length or the minimum pit stop time for each car will be dependent on who is driving it. Each driver is categorized by the FIA. They are either silver, bronze or gold, to put it out of order, as we look again at the challenge to anti-Ramo, and that's from Sven Bart in Sven Bart, I beg your pardon, in the number 90 car. So back to the pit stops. A minimum pit stop time for all cars is 95 seconds. Then there is a handicap that is applied depending on the FIA grading of each driver combination. So if the two drivers that are sharing the car are silver and silver, there's an additional 20 seconds added onto that. If they are gold and bronze, it's an additional 10 seconds added onto that. If they are solo silver, it's 25 seconds minimum pit stop time added onto that. Bronze and silver, 10 seconds. It means that drivers have different pit stop times. To add to that, the drivers who won last time out will get a 7-second pit stop penalty added to that. Well, that was the Schumachers at Nürburgring, so they're not here. But 4 seconds is added to Marcus Pommer and Valentina Catalana's minimum pit stop time. Anti-Ramo will get an additional 2 seconds. So you add that all up, and everybody has a minimum pit stop time that is different to each other. Chiara Alizari will have a minimum pit stop time of 95 seconds plus 25 seconds on top of that. So he'll want to get as big a gap as possible, because Marcus Pommer, who's in front of him, and Julian Apostolos, who's behind him, will have a minimum pit stop time that is 5 seconds shorter, as we see Klaus Ablin now going slowly around turn 3, the Castrol Omega turn. So it could all change once the pit window opens. And there are some drivers who are solo, some that will be swapping to other drivers in their team. Klaus Ablin will be sharing with Felipe Laza, who is a gold-rated driver. Klaus Ablin is a bronze-rated driver. It means their minimum pit stop time will be the 95 seconds plus an additional 10 seconds on account of them being a gold and bronze combination.
Yeah, Carlo Alizari is the driver that has the most additional time in the pits of anybody, isn't he? Another 25 seconds for him, whereas Anti-Ramo is always the one that comes up the order during the pit stop phase, because he normally has no seconds, because he finished on podium last time out. He gets 2 seconds. That's all, though. So Anti-Ramo, 6th at the moment, but the number 14 car, as long as he stays in touch, will be able to shoot up the order. On the last lap, the gap was 1.3 seconds. 5 thousandths of a second quicker than Alizari was the race leader Pommer. So he pulled a gap of just 5 thousandths of a second. We look at Danny Sufi now, getting onto the case of Anti-Ramo, the American driver on the tail of Ramo. Ramo, the Estonian, gets on the power. That V8 unleashed 450 brake horsepower, and he lights up the rear tyres as he gets on the gas and gets a bit of a slide on as he climbed the hill up through turns 4, 5 and 6. They go downhill now through turns 7 and 8, and then go back uphill into the blind crest at turn 9. So Danny Sufi really is going to have to follow single file through this middle sector of the lap. There's not really any overtaking opportunities once you get past the first couple of corners until you get to the end of the lap. You can get a really good run coming down the waterfall. You might be able to get another place down at turn 12.
He'll be thinking about that mistake into the first corner and now having to fight his way back. Anti-Ramo leaves a little gap on the inside, but Danny Sufi not close enough to make the most of it. Now out of turn 12 up to turn 13. Still Danny Sufi just a little bit too far back at the moment. He'll try and get up close to Anti-Ramo as they come past the pits. He'll try and get close and pick up their slipstream as they head towards turn 1. So Anti-Ramo with the advantage at the moment in that 6th place, but Danny Sufi not really close enough to do anything about it, flashing the lights, trying to distract the car in front. Now a gap to the inside of Anti-Ramo, but still he stays in front. Danny Sufi following into turn 3, the Castrol Omega turn around there. Then it'll be up the hill to the blind crest once again. No real overtaking opportunities here, but certainly opportunities to put on the pressure and try and force a mistake to the car in front.
Yeah, Anti-Ramo in the black and white Ligier, number 14 car, doing a good job here, frustrating Danny Sufi, who's definitely got plenty of pace in the car despite that big run through the gravel trap at the start of the race, but at the moment he can't find a way through. Just about the worst place this to have a bad start like that, because it is one of the more difficult circuits on the calendar on which to overtake. and he falls back away there quite a long way, doesn't he, Danny Soufi? Suddenly he's 3 or 4 car lengths back, so you have a moment, you have a glitch there, something with the car, but he definitely dropped back about half a second to a second from where he was. Through turn 12 they go. Looks like he's winding it back up now, but yeah, lost a lot of time in the middle sector. Klaus Abelin, having made his way to the pits, is already getting out of the car, so I'm afraid that looks like a retirement for the Fricadelli racing team, and it means that Felipe Lassa, who's been a race winner at the Nürburgring 24 hours, he's not going to be able to get in the car. He's had 1 win this year at Hockenheim with that car and with Klaus Abelin. At a podium finish at Zandvoort, 5th in the championship. Mathematically still in the hunt in this race, but probably now going to drop out of championship contention.
Yes, we saw him having problems in qualifying this morning with that car, so clearly whatever the issue was that brought it to a stop in quali has reared its ugly head again, and such a shame we're not going to see Felipe Lassa. So that is one car that is out of the race. It means Danny Soufi currently in last place in the very similar Ligier car that's in front of him as well, challenging for that position. Danny Soufi will want to get through as quickly as possible because his main championship rival, Marcus Palmer, is leading the way, and Danny Soufi and Torsten Kratz would certainly lose the championship lead if the race finished now. So down the waterfall once again, Antti Ramo, who is a bronze-rated driver but has proven to be very rapid all season long, took a win in Zandvoort. That's how quick he is up to turn 13. So no mean feat finding a route past the number 14 car.
Danny Soufi in the turquoise and black Conrad car run by the Austrian team Conrad Motorsport, was the winner of the Winter Series in prototypes with that team. Took 3 wins in the pre-season championship, and here he is leading the overall championship, but they've seen a fairly healthy championship lead dwindle over the last few rounds, and this is just about the worst thing that could have happened at the start of this race. They're both, I reckon, catching Sven Bart, aren't they? So he's pushing Antti Ramo, and again Antti Ramo lights up the tyres coming out of turn 3 as he gets on the gas and unleashes that V8 power, all that horsepower into the rear tyres. But they are both, I reckon, reading into Sven Bart. Yeah, on the last lap, Sven did a 120.1. Antti Ramo did a 119.7 and 119.4 for Soufi. So 7th is catching 6th, and they're both catching the red number 90 car there, the Ginetta, in 5th place of the former GT Masters racer.
So it's not just the overall championship that they're thinking of here. Antti Ramo in number 14, he's a solo driver in that number 14 car. He's currently leading in the trophy category. 2nd in the trophy category is the co-driver of the green and black car that is challenging on his inside, Torsten Kratz, who's sharing the driving duties of that car with Danny Soufi. Soufi getting 2 wheels onto the dirt, has to back out of it, so Antti Ramo still ahead. But Antti Ramo is up against car number 2 with Torsten Kratz at the wheel, and he will be after the pit stop sequence for the trophy championship. At the moment, Ramo leads that by 40 points ahead of car number 2, which has Torsten Kratz at the wheel.
Yeah, Ramo was not going to concede this position into turn 12. The gap opens up. Soufi commits to the move. Then the door is squeezed. Ramo stays on the outside. You can see the dust being kicked up as he goes over the curbs there with the left-hand side of the car. Loses the momentum coming out of the corner, and the downhill drop out of turn 12. Ramo got back away, but Soufi, no doubt about it, is the quicker of the two. The 20-year-old from Austin in Texas cannot find a way past the Estonian, who had a great career in karting in Estonia, multiple frontrunner in the national championship. He's proven very adept at racing these prototype cars, though, these LMP3 cars, as you say, and he is doing a fine job here, but he's under intense pressure now from Danny Soufi. He's getting really frustrated, and I think might be a little bit wound up that that door was closed as firmly as it was on the previous lap.
Down the waterfall they come. It is a steep drop, I have to tell you. He looks to the inside. This time there is a gap. Antti Ramo's not going to be able to close the door on this one, surely. Danny Soufi to the inside into turn 12. Out of 12 they come up the steep hill to turn 13. Finally, Danny Soufi relieving Antti Ramo of that 6th place. He's going to set about Sven Bart next up the road. There is Sven Bart. I don't think it's going to be too long before Danny Soufi catches him. He is a man on a mission, but his main championship rival, Marcus Palmer, has a 1.338 lead over Keanu Al-Azari in that 2nd place. Azari just holding station at the moment.
Yeah, and as it stands, the points in 6th place actually get the points for 5th, because Sven Bart doesn't qualify for championship points after switching his partnership after the first weekend of the season. So as it stands, 25 points coming the way of Marcus Pommer and Valentino Catalano, the race leaders. Long way to go, but if it were to stay like this, they'd be the championship leaders on 190 points, with Kratz and Sufi dropping to second, 6 points behind them on 184, and Cirelli and Apotelos, who are third at the moment in the race, would be third in the championship on 174, and Keanu Al-Azari would stay in mathematical contention. 25 points available tomorrow. He'd be 18 behind if he finished second, and it all stayed like this. A replay of that move, then it was take two. It was the same corner, but this time it was a better result for Danny Sufi as he just about squeezed his way through. But again, it wasn't easy, and Antiramo has been a bit of a thorn in his side. Of course, all the time it's taken to get past that number 14 car is time that he's been losing to everybody in front of him.
Pit window will open when the clock strikes 33, and that's when the cars will have a 10-minute window in which to come into the pits. But already Danny Sufi has caught up with Sven Bart in the number 90 car, flashing the lights. Didn't think it was going to take very long to catch him. Will it take very long to pass him? He needs to have a bit of caution about him, though, because a non-finish at this stage would be pretty disastrous for Danny Sufi and Torsten Kratz. Out of turn 3, up turn 4 towards turn 5, the blind crest once again. They've left Antiramo in their wake. Danny Sufi will be aware that Antiramo will have a pit stop that will be shorter than himself. So he'll want to get as big a gap as he can over the number 14 car. He'll want to get clear of Sven Bart as quickly as possible.
Yeah, well, he knows where the move can be done, doesn't he? At the foot of the waterfall into turn 12. It's worked a couple of times for him already in this race, Danny Sufi, so he's lining things up now at the top of the hill. They come out through turn 11 and down the waterfall. Is he close enough to lunge? I don't think he is he? A couple of car lengths back. He'll close up on Bart, for sure under braking, but nowhere near close enough to have a stab up the inside. Sven Bart was actually very quick at the top of the hill through turns 9 and 10, wasn't he? So that gave him just enough breathing space, and the red Ginetta remains in 5th place for now. On the last lap, the gap grew, but only by a fraction again. So close between the top two in terms of their pace. Pommer was 13 thousandths quicker than Al-Azari on that previous lap, although Al-Azari set the absolute best third sector of the race. Frustrating, that start for Al-Azari, because he's been the quickest in all the practice sessions and qualifying so far this weekend.
Yeah, he'll be thinking about that probably when he goes to bed tonight and closes his eyes. But second place, still pretty solid, but he needs more than that if he wants to keep himself in this championship. You can see the gap that are between each driver there. Marcus Pommer leading by 1.4 seconds, but I'll focus very much on this fight here. Sven Bart in the very distinctive Momo Gebhardt Ginetta, the only Ginetta in the race, being challenged by the Ligier with Danny Sufi at the wheel. It didn't take him long to catch him. It's taken him a lot longer to pass him. So they continue up towards, that's turn 10 and 11, down towards the waterfall they come. The incident between Antiramo and Danny Sufi under investigation. So that'll be when they got together. So race control having a little look at that.
The only saving grace for the current championship leader, Danny Sufi, here is that he has a shorter pit stop than those other championship contenders that are ahead of him, because they didn't have a good race last time out in the Nürburgring, and so don't get any additional success time for finishing in the top 3. And with their driver rating as well. So Danny Sufi now into turn 1, all over the back of the red Ginetta of Sven Bart, showing his nose coming into turn 2, getting frustrated once again. But all he's doing here is menacing the driver ahead just to try and put him off his stride, catch his attention in the mirrors, catch his eye, and then hopefully from Danny Sufi's point of view, the German driver will miss his braking point. He'll go a bit too late on the brakes into a corner and leave an opportunity. So he's just ramping up the pressure here, Danny Sufi. But that Conrad car is going to have to stop for an additional 14 seconds in the pits, whereas Marcus Pommer, when he brings the car in and hands over to Valentino Catalano, will be 10 seconds longer than that, so he'll get a free 10 seconds back. At the moment, though, Danny Sufi is 23.5 seconds down on the race leader, so should be able to halve the gap during the pit stop, but still a long way back, isn't it, from that start?
And the driver that he's trying to overtake, Sven Bart, is a very experienced driver. We've seen him in GT Masters and GT racing over the years. It's a fair feat to try and get past that red and yellow car there in 5th place. So Danny Sufi frustrated out of turn 13 once again. Past the pits. Is he close enough to make a challenge? Doesn't look like it to me. In towards turn 1. Sven Bart looking to have 5th place covered off at the moment. In the background, Antiramo still there. So there's Sven Bart. So Sufi having a look to the outside. Nothing really going to happen there into turn 2. Black and white flag for Antti Ramo for pushing another car off the track. That would have been Danny Sufi when Sufi was trying to get past.
Meanwhile, in third place, Julian Apostolos has pulled the trigger. He's done the absolute best lap of the race so far. 1 minute 17.9, and that was 4/10 quicker than Al-Azhari in second place. This is the incident that was investigated and has resulted in a penalty for the number 14 car of Antti Ramo. The steward saying, look, you just closed the door a bit too much there, so we're not going to give you a penalty, but that was borderline, and we are going to give you a warning. Do it again, and you might be in trouble. Apostolos has just set the absolute best second sector of the lap. It's only the shortest sector, that, at less than 17 seconds. But it shows that he's pushing on. And on that lap, again, it wasn't quite as quick as the one before, but again, he's 4/10 quicker than Al-Azhari. So suddenly, having been 2 seconds behind the second-place car, he's only 1.3 seconds behind him.
Keanu Al-Azhari, who has been something of a sensation this year, a real racer. I mentioned earlier, he currently leads the championship in Formula 4 Spain with 4 wins, one of the real up-and-coming superstars of motor racing. When he started on pole position, I kind of thought he might disappear off into the distance, but for that issue into turn 1, he's in that second place, and Marcus Palmer 1.5 seconds up the road. Julian Apostolos, though, can catch Keanu Al-Azhari. Getting past him might be a bit of a challenge. Jakob Becker in 4th place in the number 80 car, having a fairly quiet race at the moment. And then the battle that we've been looking at, Sven Bart and Danny Sufi with Antti Ramo in 7th place. There is Julian Apostolos in 3rd place, reeling in Keanu Al-Azhari.
Good effort this from Sven Bart. Not only has he kept Danny Sufi behind, but he's also not really given him any clear opportunities so far to come past. So doing a good job there in that battle that we've been watching for 5th place. They're the top 3 coming through the shot. You see the gap back to 4th position, and Jan Elbacker, who's on his own at the moment with the newcomer to the series this year, Maxi Dirks, to get into the car, the Belgian driver. So all on his own in 4th place. Then you got this battle for 5th position, only just coming out of turn 12 now. So already on his way down to turn 3 is the race leader. Not yet finishing the previous lap is Danny Sufi. That's the kind of gap that team are going to try and have to get back. And in theory, Danny Sufi, the quicker of the 2 drivers in that turquoise and black Conrad car, Torsten Kratz, with less speed. So this is where you really want to take advantage. And Danny Sufi, he's being frustrated now by Sven Bart, who in the past, in recent years, as I say, raced and competed in GT Masters, been a trophy champion, raced against the likes of Ricardo Feller and Calvin van der Linde, who was the champion that year, and are now superstars on the DTM Championship. So Sven doing a good job here, but the pressure, I feel, is coming back towards him, isn't it?
1 minute and 20 seconds until the pit window opens. The dilemma for Conrad Motorsport will be whether to bring Danny Sufi in early and attempt to do an undercut on Sven Bart, or whether to keep him out for longer, because of the 2, well, Danny Sufi is a silver-rated driver. His co-driver, Torsten Kratz, is bronze-rated, so arguably maybe not as quick around the circuit, but they'll want to clear that Ginetta as quickly as possible, because he is losing valuable time as he chases it down the waterfall once again into turn 12. Another little look to the inside, but Sven Bart has that covered off, and then up towards turn 13 they will come. Now Danny Sufi looking closer now than he was before, so is this going to be his challenge? Out of turn 13 onto the pit straight, he's closer this time. He's going to get a little bit of a slipstream as they head past the pits in towards turn 1. Sven Bart will have one eye on his mirrors. To the inside ducks Danny Sufi. Sven Bart moves across, closes the door once again. Car number 2 is behind car number 90 into turn 2, down to Castrol Omega, turn 3, and again it's still Sven Bart who holds on to that 5th place.
Yeah, Antti Ramo behind them in 7th place. He's around about 4 seconds behind this battle, but of course he's going to have a much shorter pit stop, as we said. So they'll have to try and get past him again later on. Sufi and Kratz, will be Kratz that will take over the wheel, because number 2 car is going to have an additional 14 seconds in the pits. The 14 car, only 2 seconds. And the car that's in front of both of them at the moment, that red Ginetta, will have 10 seconds in the pits on top of the minimum pit stop time. So in all likelihood, even if the Conrad car gets past that red Ginetta, he's going to have to do it again once they've got through the pit stop phase of the 3 cars having the longest pit stop. So Ramo should be coming up the order quite nicely. The race leader has gone through last time with a 1:18.1, slightly quicker than him, half a tenth quicker than him was Al-Khazari in second place. That gap has crept down a little bit now to 1.1 seconds, and a 1:18.3 last time around for Apostolos. So for the first time in a while, Apostolos losing ground to the top two, and the gap from first to third is 3 seconds.
You can see it wasn't in their strategy for Danny Sufi to come in when the pit window opened, but to stay out, which is why he's looking still so eager to try and challenge Sven Bart. He's close again, saw him into turn one, but still could not make the move stick. Meanwhile, at the front, Marcus Pommer very much under control. Get the feeling that Pommer might stay out quite late in the window. Why would he need to pit? He's got a clear track in front of him. He's a very quick driver, so Pommer leading the way at the moment. He's up towards turn 13. We're still watching this battle, the closest battle on the circuit. It is for 5th place. It's Sven Bart in the Ginetta. Danny Sufi, after that mistake into turn 1, trying to fight his way back through the pack. He's in 6th place at the moment, but still can't find a way past that red and yellow car in front.
Keanu Al-Azari, looking out the commentary box window, has come into the pits. Yes, he has. So right at the start of the window, the 2nd place car comes in. That has been coupled with a new fastest lap of the race, which has gone to Marcus Pommer, 1:17.905. So up to second on the track now is Apostolos, and he's 3.2 seconds behind Pommer. And this is the car that was in second place. It's a solo driver, Keanu Al-Azari, the Mulder Motorsports squad, cleaning the windscreen there, opening the door to get a bit of fresh air. Not exactly cool air, but cooler air than he's got inside that cockpit for the driver that in just over a minute's time will be released out. So get as close as you can to zero, but don't undercut it. If you come out of that pit lane and cross that white line even a fraction of a second early, you'll be getting a penalty, and that will be called back into the pit. So Al-Azari choosing to come in early and see if he can jump the gun that way, but he's only got a 1 second difference between his pit stop time. He's got 1 second more than Pommer here, and then the Apostolos car, which is into second place on the track now, has got the shortest of the three at 20 seconds. So when Apostolos hands over to Riccardo Cirelli, it should be that number 8 car will come out as the new leading car in the second half of the race.
So that is Danny Sufi into the pits now. You saw Franz Conrad, team boss, looking on. So Danny Sufi in, handing over to Torsten Kratz in the bronze category. They're going to try and get the car out onto some clear track, I expect. So it's a big pressure on Torsten Kratz's shoulders. To remind you, he's also challenging for the Trophy Championship. He is second behind Antti Ramo, some 40 points back. The engine fires into life, and very shortly he'll get going. But because of the bronze and silver combination, it is 105 seconds minimum pit stop time from pit entry to pit exit. That is 15 seconds shorter than Keanu Al-Azari had.
Yeah, Al-Azari went out and was in the pits 3 seconds longer than he could have been, according to the timing. So he didn't quite nail that pit stop. He was in a bit longer than he needed to be. Meanwhile, Sven Bart gets out now. That will be frustrating for Danny Sufi, because Danny probably would have stayed out longer had he not been stuck. Look at this drama for the championship contenders. There's been a spin for Julian Apostolos from second place. So he's going to get going again in the Muka Motorsport car, but that's lost a ton of time.
What an absolute disaster. This has implications for the championship coming into this race. That car was just 15 points behind championship leaders Danny Sufi and Torsten Kratz, Julian Apostolos and Riccardo Cirelli. But that spin, I heard the screech in the background and looked up to see what it was. The answer was Julian Apostolos having a bit of a moment. Fortunately, he's kept it out of the barriers, although I should think there'll be some pretty decent flat spots on those tyres, giving him some vibrations. But he will very shortly have to come into the pits, and here he comes to hand over to Riccardo Cirelli. But tyre changes are not permitted in Prototype Cup Germany, so Riccardo Cirelli is going to have those flat spotted tyres underneath him for the next 28 minutes.
Yeah, that'll be so frustrating, because as I say, of the top three, they had the shortest pit stop, and they should have come out as the race leaders. They're in a great position to get a race winner, really make this a tight scrap going into the final race of the season for the championship. So Cirelli will get in. There's not too much of a flat spot on the tyres, and that will now give a big advantage to Marcus Pommer and Valentino Catalan. Catalano. Pommer's absolutely flying. His last lap was another quickest lap of the race, 1:17.895. So he's done a good job. But now it is time to come into the pits and hand over to his teammates. So the race-leading car comes in.
Valentino Catalano will be in the garage, poised and ready for action. They don't need to do anything too desperate. You can see the countdown clock that just shows how much time they've got. So plenty of time for Marcus Pommer to get out of the car. Here comes Valentino Catalano carrying his seat insert. Of course, drivers have a different build to each other, so the seat insert will go in and Valentino Catalano will bring that car home. He's wished good luck by Marcus Pommer as he exits the car and goes for a very welcome cool down and a sit down in the garage, and he will watch on the screens as Valentino Catalano inherits that car and attempts to bring it home in first place. It means that the race leader is now Jakob Erlbacher with 3 3/4 minutes of the pit window still remaining. Erlbacher will soon need to be coming into the pits. Antti Ramo also into the pits. He is a solo driver. He's bronze rated. It means his minimum pit stop time is 95 seconds. So this is an opportunity for Antti Ramo to be propelled up the order.
Yeah, shortest pit stop of anybody with only just those 2 additional seconds for that podium he got last time out. So he's going to charge up the order, despite the fact he didn't have the quickest of pit stops and was not quite as close to minimum stop time as he could have been. Al-Azhari, now he's going to be in a strong position for that second place at least, because of that spin that we saw for the number 8 car at the time, driven by Julian Apostolos. So he should have a decent gap back now to third once they're all sorted out and perhaps can go and try and get the race win. But Valentino Catalano is a rapid driver. He's next into that number 80 car. Erlbacher comes in now as well from the race lead. It's because we're going into the final stages of the pit window. Less than 3 minutes to go now. Erlbacher comes in. He'll hand over to Maxi Dirks, who will get in. That art livery on the car. From a family friend who's fantastic design on the car and the race helmet. So he's about to get in as Valentino Catalano is released onto the track for a pit stop infringement. Could things get any worse for the championship leaders, because they are being investigated for a pit stop infringement. That's Torsten Kratz and Danny Sufi.
That could be a disaster. The pit stop's very heavily regulated, and so if that's been investigated, clearly there's something that they have as evidence. You can see that Antti Ramo is going over his minimum pit stop time. You can see the clock ticking away. I can't see where car 14 is, but the clock is running on the screen. So Antti Ramo potentially with some problems. Jakob Erlbacher in the pits. So Valentino Catalano in car number 70, currently out on turn 10, heading down towards the waterfall, and he's second now. The clock is still ticking on Jakob Erlbacher and Maxim Dirks, and Antti Ramo, just looking out of our commentary box window, is having a bump start. The team are having to push the car up the pit lane to get it started, so they had problems firing the number 14 car into life. A disaster for Antti Ramo. Up to turn 13 we come. It's Valentino Catalano who's about to take control of this race. But look who's in the background. Keanu Al-Azhari, despite all the traumas, up into second place and looking very, very strong. Despite the fact he had that long pit stop, he is with the driver that has taken back the lead of this race.
Yeah, he was second before, but he was much further back, wasn't he? So it has all come his way. Must have had a good couple of out laps as well. Out wide goes Catalano in the race-leading car there, the number 70 car. Both of these are scrapping for the championship as well. If he wins a couple of races this weekend, Al-Azhari could win the championship. Doesn't even need necessarily to do that, but probably will have to, given the way the points are working this weekend. So Al-Azhari closing, putting the pressure on Catalano. It's always the tricky thing, isn't it, when you share a car to get in second, because you're just thrown straight into the deep end, straight into the fire. As a starting driver, you get a bit of time to build up to it. You sit on the grid, you have the formation lap, and then you get going, but you're straight into the heat of battle as the second driver stepping in, whereas Al-Azhari has already been doing this for half an hour or so.
Yeah, he's well into the rhythm, isn't he? Valentino Catalano, great driver, great qualifier in that car, and he is someone that we saw in ADAC Formula 4 Germany not that long ago. In the meantime, Antti Ramo is under investigation. We saw the crew pushing the car up the pit lane. I'm afraid that is very much frowned upon by our race stewards, and I get the feeling that Antti Ramo may well have a another penalty incoming. He's in 7th place at the moment, so it probably couldn't get a lot worse. But this here, pushing the car up the pit lane, the stewards and race directors do not permit that. So Antti Ramo in trouble with the stewards.
Yeah, and with Torsten Kratz as his closest rival in the Trophy Championship, and only 34 points adrift, that's going to be potentially taking that right down to the wire for the last day of the season as well, with Antti Ramo back in 7th place overall now, and he's going to get a drive-through penalty for a pit stop infringement. He certainly didn't undercut the time, did he? Because they spent some sort of problem before that, which they couldn't get the car going again, which cost him a ton of time anyway, but that's just destroyed his race even further now. Antti Ramo will be coming back into the pits. Catalano, though, at the head of the field, has got into the rhythm here, hasn't he? He's pulled about half a second clear now of Chiano Alazzari.
So Alazzari in that 2nd place with the carbon fibre, the black carbon fibre at the back of the car. That was as a result of an accident he had in free practice yesterday, and they had to change the bodywork on the back of the car. He had the accident towards the start of the free practice session. He still ended up the fastest time of free practice, despite the fact he spent most of it in the garage. That's how quick he is. Car number 2, a 6-second stop-and-go penalty for a pit stop infringement. So Torsten Kratz with a 6-second stop-and-go penalty. That's a bit of a disaster for car number 2.
Yeah, and all told, with the pit lane entry and exit and sticking to the maximum pit lane speed limit, that will cost around about 35 seconds in total for Torsten Kratz. So he's going to drop behind Maxi Dirks, he's going to drop behind Cirelli, who's in 5th place, and he will drop also behind Michael Lyons. So he's going to drop down to 6th place. Antti Ramo in 7th has also got to come back into the pits. So the two contenders for the Trophy Championship, for the more senior drivers in the Championship, both having a bit of a nightmare here. Will promote Maxi Dirks up to 3rd place now. He's already been keeping tabs with Torsten Kratz anyway. He's only a couple of seconds behind him. So the 20-year-old in the number 80 car, the man from Antwerp in Belgium, in his 1st season of prototype cup racing, looking rapid anyway, but he's on course potentially for a podium finish here when this car has to come in and serve its stop-go penalty shortly.
Valentino Catalano continues to lead the way, 8 tenths at the front. The race very much coming to Valentino Catalano and Marcus Pommer, but it's important they finish. Chiano Alazzari will probably be a little less cautious because he is down in 4th place in the championship coming into this race, 27 points adrift. He will probably throw caution to the wind in his attempt to try and get into the lead of this race. Valentino Catalano will be aware of that. It's a great opportunity for car number 70 to score a big haul of points and move clear at the top of the points championship, but he needs to finish the race to get the points. In the meantime, the championship leader coming into this race is not looking likely now, is it? Torsten Kratz running out on his own at the moment, but soon to come back into the pits.
Yeah, the next battle to keep an eye on is it's going to become the battle for 3rd place, because Maxim Dirks, the former Belgian and Dutch karting champion, number 80, is going to move up to 3rd when Kratz comes into the pits, and Riccardo Cirelli will move up to 4th place, and Cirelli is flying at the moment. He's the quickest driver on the track currently, did a 1:19.5 last time around. Maxim Dirks did a 1:21.8, so he's a couple of seconds a lap quicker. The gap was 8 seconds, it's now 5.7 seconds. So Cirelli, despite the spin for his teammate earlier on in that pink number 80 Muka Motorsport car, could still get a podium finish out of this, and looks like he's going to, the way he's catching up to the number 80 car of Dirks, and he's still got just under 19 minutes plus 1 lap to go in the race.
16-year-old Riccardo Cirelli has been so rapid. He's come straight from karting into the LMP3 category, as we see now. Torsten Kratz peeling off into the pit lane. This is going to sting. He keeps to the speed limit. He'll have to come into the pit box. The crew can't work on the car. He'll just stop, wait for the 6 seconds, which will feel like 6 minutes, I should think, and then finally he'll get the thumbs up. He'll fire the car back up and rejoin at the track, but that is pretty disastrous for the Conrad Motorsport car.
Yeah, it's going to drop them down to 6th place. Michael Lyons has already gone through, as you can see there, into turn 1. Michael Lyons, who has occasional drives in the championship, was that last time out at the Nürburgring, who's best known for, aside from GT racing in the UK, the British driver. He's a great historic racer. His dad, Frank Lyons, his mum, Judith Lyons, both historic racers as well. He's been a winner at the British Grand Prix in the Masters Formula 1 category for older Formula 1 cars, and a multiple winner at the Monaco Historic Grand Prix as well. So Michael Lyons, number 90, up to ahead now, up into 5th place he will go. Meanwhile, this is a battle for the lead of the race between Valentino Catalano, as you say, incredibly, just 16 years of age, and another young and up-and-coming driver, Chiano Al-Azari from the UAE. Just 0.6 of a second between them, both of them fighting here for a chance to go into tomorrow in contention for the championship title, the final race of the season coming up in 24 hours' time.
Chiano Al-Azari had closed the gap up to about just over 0.6 of a second when they crossed the start-finish line. I'd wager it's even closer than that now. Down turn 7 under the bridge towards turn 8. Chiano Al-Azari will want to get as close as he possibly can as they go up the hill to turn 9, turn 10, and then over the crest of the hill, the blind crest. It'll be down the waterfall towards turn 12. So Chiano Al-Azari in the blue and white, number 21 car, in 2nd place, challenging for the lead. Valentina Catalano, very much with the championship in mind, into turn 12, out of turn 12 and up the hill again into turn 13 they come. Chiano Al-Azari maybe just a little bit too far back to challenge along the pit straight into turn 1. A good exit from turn 13 for both cars, but out along the pit straight they come once again. Al-Azari just showing himself in the mirrors of Catalano, but nowhere near close enough to make a challenge.
And on the next lap, we're going to have the battle for 3rd place ignited, because 2 seconds a lap quicker than the driver he's hunting down is this man, Riccardo Cirelli, in the pink number 8 BWT Muka car. He's got the gap down now to just a couple of seconds to Maxim Dirks there, who goes up over the crest, over the hill, starts another lap. More disaster for the championship leaders as Thorsten Kratz has a very wide moment and goes through the gravel trap in the number 2 car. That was up at the top of the hill, up at turn 10, the exit to turn 10. Let's have a look. He just, in that blind crest, just missed the apex, understeered wide, and then almost completely lost the car on the skittish gravel there. So it's all gone wrong. 2 moments through the gravel, pit stop penalty, nightmare for them. There's the battle for the lead of the race, and coming into turn 7, it's almost going to be nose to tail now in the battle for 3rd. By the end of this lap, it will be nose to tail. The gap has come down to 1.7 seconds between Dirks and Cirelli.
A little over 15 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining, and it is all to play for. Cirelli closing on Maxim Dirks, Chiano Al-Azari very much closing in on Valentina Catalano for the race lead. Still not close enough into turn 1. Catalano keeping it all together. The 18-year-old pilot just holding on at the front of this. No dramas, no traumas at the moment. He knows if he positions that car well, Chiano Al-Azari is going to struggle to get past. So Catalano leading the way at the moment. The driver from Germany for ADAC Motorsport. Driver from the UAE in 2nd place, Chiano Al-Azari, just following him, trying to think about how he's going to get past the red and black car and take the lead of this race.
So by my maths, Marcus Pommer and Valentino Catalano, the pair that lead this race, will lead the championship by 6 points. They'll move into the championship lead on 190 points. Thorsten Kratz and Danny Sufi are 6, but they'll get the points for 5th. They'll score 11. They'll be 6 behind. And then Riccardo Cirelli and Julian Apostolos, if they can get up into 3rd place, will pick up 16 points, and they'd be 10 points between all 3 of them. And Chiano Al-Azari would be in contention as well. It'd be 18 points adrift with 25 points up for grabs, but he'd need to win the race tomorrow and hope the other results went his way. From the point of view of Danny Sufi and Thorsten Kratz, their team and Danny Sufi will be willing on Chiano Al-Azari, because the better result for them is if Al-Azari wins the race, because then he'll take 5 points away from Catalano and Pommer, and then they'll only lead by 1 point going into tomorrow.
That would be exciting, wouldn't it? Whoever finishes in front becomes the champion. Well, it could well be that. There is the 4th place. Riccardo Cirelli just ahead of him is Maxim Dirks in car number 80. Out along the pit straight they come. The battle for the last of the podium positions. But Riccardo Cirelli still very much in the championship hunt, along with co-driver Julian Apostolos. Steep downhill that turn 1, much steeper than you think as they head in towards turn 2. Again, around Castrol Omega turn 3. Still very much as you were, but Riccardo Cirelli, he was 9/10 back last time. He's closing up lap on lap, but can he get past to take that 3rd place away?
Tell you what, hats off to Maxim Dirks, because he was being caught by 2 seconds a lap for about 3 laps running. And as soon as he saw that pink missile in his mirrors, he's upped his game. So he's now lapping in the 1:19. He's doing an excellent job. A 1:19.7 last time around. Yes, Cirelli was quicker, but instead of 2 seconds quicker, he was only a 1/10 of a second quicker on that previous lap. So Maxim Dirks with these multiple national karting championships to his name, fending off another karting graduate here. The 2 youngsters going at it in the battle for 3rd place. And for Maxim Dirks and his teammate Jakob Erbacher, they're looking for their first podium finish of the year. So they've got everything to play for here to keep Cirelli behind. But Cirelli needs the points, doesn't he? And if he gets 3rd, he'll get 3 more championship points rather than the 13 that he's going to get at the moment for 4th place.
And along the pit straight, flashing the lights, Riccardo Cirelli in that 4th place, not close enough to make a move. He came straight from karting 4 years ago. His mother asked Peter Mucker whether he could sit in their Formula 4 car. Peter Mucker said yes, stayed in contact with Riccardo Cirelli. 4 years later, he was offered a test in an LMP3 car. And this is what happens. Within 5 laps of that test, Riccardo Cirelli was fast and error-free. And you can see he is one of the up-and-coming stars, and this series has really attracted some really talented youngsters. Chiana Alazzari, Riccardo Cirelli, Danny Sufi, so many of the future superstars here in the Prototype Cup Germany.
On the last lap, Valentino Catalano extended his advance by 0.3 of a second. The top 2 go through again. That time, Alazzari's a fraction quicker, but it's only, well, it's less than 0.5 of a second. So the gap has sort of stabilised now between the top 2 at around about 0.8 of a second as we go into the last 11 minutes of the race. This is the battle for 3rd coming out of turn 12. They come out of that in 3rd gear, go uphill then 3rd gear into this tight and uphill final corner. It was a really steep climb. They come over the crest, go over the finish line, up to 4th gear, 5th gear, and then they'll get to the biggest braking zone on the lap as they go into the 1st corner, back down to 2nd gear, and then they'll run downhill all the way down to that Castrol Omega turn at turn 3. One of only 2 right-handers on the entire lap. In 13 corners, 2 rights, 11 of the turns are left-handers, and that is testing physically for these drivers as well, because they are used to their neck muscles, their shoulder muscles, to go the other way around the circuit. So the other side of their neck, they'll have had to train up before this weekend to build up those muscles as well, because of all the G-forces that are pulling the weight of that helmet on their heads and making it feel much, much heavier than it really is.
With 45 minutes of this race gone, 10 minutes still to go, the tyres will be starting to get very worn. It's such an abrasive surface here at the Sachsenring, and making the tyres go the distance is quite a skill. So the drivers will be aware that if they push too hard, they won't have any grip at the end of the race, and it's about now it's going to start to feel the effects of that. 0.509 is the gap between 1st and 2nd, Catalano and Alazzari. There is Maxim Dirks in 3rd place, 0.8 of a second back. Riccardo Cirelli here is 1st, there is 2nd. Chiana Alazzari, who won a shootout of over 50 drivers that Molnar had organised to get that seat, and they saw talent. Well, they certainly did, didn't they? Because Chiana Alazzari, a real talent. Molnar Motorsport doing a similar shootout in America for 2025. And Chiana Alazzari, who comes from a racing family, his father Karim is an ex-racer, his brother is in F4 Spain as well, so it's in the blood.
Yeah, really keeping the pressure up on Catalano here, but Valentino Catalano desperate to get his first win since the very first race of the season at the Sachsenring. So got a win on his debut, trying to get another win here. They have had 1 win, Marcus Pommer and Valentino Catalano, 3 seconds and 3/3. So it's been a very, very consistent season. Just the 1 blot on the copybook, which was a retirement in one of the 3 races at Hockenheim. Otherwise, points in all of the races, and podium finishes in all but one of their race finishes. Oh, more disaster, this time for Cirelli. That car through its spin earlier on for a Potlos, now through the gravel trap, and that completely undoes his chances of grabbing a podium finish. He's still going to be good for fourth, but that is great news for Maxim Dirks and Jakob Erlbacher, because they should now have third place secured.
What were we saying about the cars running out of grip? I think that might be the case with car number 8. Those tyres have been through an awful lot in the last 45 to 50 minutes or so, but just no grip into the corner. Gets across at the gravel trap. Fortunately, keeps it going. Car will be absolutely full of gravel after this, but once you come to a stop, you really aren't going anywhere. So he keeps it rolling, rejoins the track. But, as you already mentioned, any chances of a podium now looking very, very remote, because Maxim Dirks has now been released up the road. Riccardo Cirelli still ahead of Michael Lyons at the moment in the number 90 car. So he hasn't lost any positions, but he's certainly not in a position to gain any now. No,
it's going to have to settle for fourth place by the looks of it. 13 points instead of a chance of third. But in fairness, Maxim Dirks was keeping behind anyway, wasn't he? He really had been driving well for the last few laps. So there he is now, on his way potentially to a first podium at the end of the season, his first season in the championship. Heads down out through turn 11, downhill, 260 plus kilometers an hour. Hugely quick, these thundering V8 powered LMP3 cars, and heads up now all on his own towards turn 13 with just under 7 minutes remaining on the clock. Valentino Catalano, the race leader, still being kept honest by Chiano Alazzari, but the gap has started to grow again now. For the first time in a while, it's gone to over a second. So Catalano looking good here. Absolutely perfect for the driver and his co-driver Marcus Pommer in terms of the championship. This maximum 25 points, and with Kratz and Sufi out of the podium positions, about to lose the championship lead.
Have we seen the best of Chiano Alazzari, or is he winding himself up to have another charge at the leader? He's just taken a 10th out of Valentino Catalano's lead, so 0.997 last time across the timing beam. So he's not done yet as they head up towards turn 13, but time's starting to run out now. Valentino Catalano, along with co-driver Marcus Pommer, have been very much in control of this race since the lights went out. Chiano Alazzari, our pole sitter, after that mistake into turn 1, going deep into that first corner, surrendered the lead. He's been trying to come back ever since. Second place is solid, but he needs more than that to keep his championship hopes well and truly alive. He can see the race leader just ahead of him. He just can't find a route past. He's taken another 10th out of it in the last couple of corners, so 0.812. So Alazzari perhaps just winding it up for another attack on Valentino Catalano.
Yeah, because he could still win this championship, but to win, he's going to have to try and win races this weekend, and he'll feel that he should be winning races given that he was on pole, given that he's been quickest in all of the sessions so far. But Catalano is doing an outstanding job at keeping him at bay at the moment. Some laps the leader is quicker, other laps the Bashur is a bit quicker, but overall there's not a great deal to choose between them. All he can do, Alazzari, here is keep up the pressure and make the race leader drive at the maximum, make him use up his tyres, make him drive on the edge to try and stay in the lead, and then maybe force a mistake in the closing stages. They come into the shade now and head up towards turn 13. Meanwhile, Maxim Dirks, after the run through the gravel track for Riccardo Cirelli, he's 15 seconds clear of him. So, in a really comfortable position to pick up a maiden podium. I mean, what is not just his first season in the Prototype Cup Germany, but also his first season of any kind of car racing, Maxim Dirks. And he's been ably supported in that first stint as well by Jakob Erlbacher, who got a really good start to the race, didn't he? And moved straight up into fourth place, with others missing that apex at turn 1. Right down at turn 3, Brian, the gap has come right back down again through the top 2.
A gap on the inside. Chiano Alazzari goes to the inside of Valentino Catalano. We could see him closing in as they came down the hill towards turn 3. Catalano had it covered off, but on the exit of turn 3 there was a gap. Chiano Alazzari did fill the gap, but was unable to pull in front of the number 70 car. So still Catalano leading, but Chiano Alazzari now putting the pressure on once again, trying to steal that lead away. Almost got his nose in front, but couldn't quite make it stick.
Yeah, it shows the intention is there, though, doesn't it? If he gets a chance, he will go for it. He wants to win. It'll be an extra 5 points. And although he's going to mathematically be in contention if the result stays like this, another 5 points will give him a much better chance going into tomorrow. And with a reduced grid of cars as well, there's not that many opportunities to take that many points away from your rivals. So they're all going to count here. Over the crest, over the line they come, past the commentary box window, and the gap has opened up again as they come through to around about 7/10 of a second. He's still got some more opportunities, but time is running out. Just over 3 minutes plus a lap remain on the clock.
Exit of turn 3, that was a very brave place to try and make that move, and I wonder if that was a mistake from Valentino Catalano. Had opened up that opportunity. Riccardo Cirelli in 4th place as Michael Lyons just 1.3 seconds behind him after that little excursion into the gravel. I think Cirelli is reasonably safe there at the moment. Down the waterfall they come once again, but Michael Lyons, who's taken over the number 90 car from Sven Bart, just filling his mirrors, ready to be there if another mistake is forthcoming. But time is running out. We're into the final 2.5 minutes of this race. Once the clock strikes 0, the leader will cross the line, and then it will be one more lap after that. We got problems.
Yeah, showing that Maxim Dirks has come into the pits on the timing screen from 3rd place, which is going to be disaster with just a couple of minutes to go. Looking for their first podium, Dirks and Aubacher, but they haven't come through and crossed the line yet. So that's got to be an issue. There's no notification of any kind of drive-through penalty or anything like that. So absolute disaster for them. But that is a respite for Cirelli, because that is going to put him now up into 3rd place and 16 points scored instead of 13.
And that has big implications on the championship. Still Valentino Catalano leading the way. Chiana Lazzari in 2nd place. Riccardo Cirelli promoted up to 3rd place as Maxim Dirks has peeled off into the pits. Antti Ramo still in that 7th place behind him. Ahead, Torsten Kratz and Michael Lyons. But there is car 90 of Michael Lyons. He's trying to close in on Cirelli, but he's not making any inroads. So the last of the podium positions at the moment belonging to the pink and white BWT Muka Motorsport car. Catalano, 1.25 minutes to hold on to the lead of this race for his 2nd win of the season. Chiana Lazzari, has he got anything else left up his sleeve? Cars head up to turn 10. Will he have another challenge in him? Can he get past? Because time is running out.
And with that Maxim Dirks car in the pits, of course, that promotes Torsten Kratz and Danny Sufi up a place, up to 5th. They get the points for 4th, because Lyons and Bart don't count for points. So I reckon the gap now will only be 4 points at the top of the championship table. Marcus Palmer and Valentino Catalano will move into the championship lead, but only by 4 points now from Kratz and Sufi. They won't lead the championship if Chiana Lazzari gets past them and gets the race victory here.
Into the penultimate lap. Less than 2 laps remaining. You could see how hard Chiana Lazzari was trying as they came out of turn 13. The back of the car sliding into the turn 3. Castrol Omega once again, the back end of the car, once again of Lazzari sliding around. The tyres on that car are very worn out, but Valentino Catalano positioning the number 70 machine in exactly the right place to stop Chiana Lazzari from getting past. Lazzari putting the pressure on, half a second behind, but still can't find a route past. The clock has struck 0, so it'll be what remains of this lap, then one more, and that will be the checkered flag.
Well, absolute heartbreak that, wasn't it, for Maxim Dirks and Jan Aubacher on course for a podium, and just minutes to go. They've had some sort of issue. The car is still stuck in the pits, so heartbreak for them. Cirelli up to 3rd, Lyons up to 4th, Kratz up to 5th, and Ramo up to 6th place. And this then is the battle for the lead of the race. Going into the closing stages now. Less than half a second between them as they come over the line and start the final lap of the race. 3.5 kilometres for Valentino Catalano to hang on and also pick up the championship lead with just 1 race to go this season.
into turn 1 for the last time. Catalano getting the right line, not outbraking himself around into turn 2. It'll be into the Castro Omega turn 3 for the very last time. Now Kian Alazari has dropped back. It looks as though all challenges for the lead are now over. Suddenly Valentina Catalano is able to break clear. Kian Alazaro may be deciding to just bring it home and get the points. No heroics on the last lap. Catalano continuing into turn 7. It'll be downhill towards turn 8 for the last time. A little squirt on the power along turn 8 to turn 9. Then the steep climb up to 9 and 10. Valentina Catalano, who shares with Marcus Pommer on the final lap of the race, on the penultimate race of this 2024 season for the Prototype Cup Germany. Down the waterfall for the very last time. You can see the gap between first and second into turn 12 for the very last time. Then it'll be the final climb up the hill towards turn 13. Valentina Catalano, Marcus Pommer have dominated this race from turn 1, and they've turned it into a win. It is a second win of the season for Marcus Pommer and Valentina Catalano. A solid challenge from Chiara Alazari all the way, but second place was all it was going to be. Something of a get-out-of-jail-free card for Riccardo Cirelli and Julian Apostolos to come home in third place after all that drama. They will take that one, I think. And across the line in fourth place, Michael Lyons. Then it'll be Torsten Kratz and Danny Sufi, the duo who came into this weekend leading the championship, with Antti Ramo rounding out the top 6.
Yeah, just a replay there down at turn 3 of Alazari just losing it, just getting a slide on, which is why his challenge fell away on that final lap of the race. So Catalano has won, Alazari has come home in second, and by my maths, he's just about going to stay in mathematical contention for the championship. 24 behind, 25 still available, so you need to win tomorrow and all the others to not score, but you never know in motorsport. There's a checkered flag. And you're absolutely right, Riccardo Cirelli and Julian Apostolos. Frustrating race, mistakes from both drivers either end of the pit window, but they've still got a podium out of it, and they are still in contention. I reckon just 12 points between the top 3 in the championship. 190, this is unofficial, but 190 I reckon to Pommer and Catalano, 186 to Kratz and Sufi, and 174 to Cirelli and Apostolos. More drama in the Prototype Cup Germany, Brian.
Oh, what a year it's turning out to be. Pommer and Catalano taking the win ahead of Kian Alazari, with Julian Apostolos, Riccardo Cirelli in third, ahead of Sven Bart and Michael Lyons, Danny Sufi and Torsten Kratz coming back from a very torrid race into fifth place ahead of Antti Ramo. Jakob Ullbacher and Maxim Dirks, your heart goes out to them. Did all the hard work and ended up with a DNF. That was also the case for Klaus Abelin, and Felipe Laza never even got to sit in that car this afternoon. But they will come back again tomorrow. It will be Felipe Laza who will be qualifying that car tomorrow. All of the number 2 drivers in this race will be doing qualifying for tomorrow morning, and then the race, which will be tomorrow afternoon, where we will discover the identity of the 2024 champion for the Prototype Cup Germany. I can't believe it. We're going into the last race, and I really don't know who's going to win the championship. It has been such a competitive year. We haven't had the biggest grids that we've ever seen in Prototype Cup Germany, but I have to tell you, the racing has been so good all year long. There is the third place car, Julian Apostolos, Riccardo Cirelli for BWT Mucker Motorsport, the legendary team headed up by Peter Mucker, who field cars in all sorts of categories, but they'll be very happy with that after a traumatic race. The up-and-coming superstar Chiara Alazari, Mulner Motorsport, who discovered him having done a search for a winning driver, and boy did they find some talent there in Chiara Alazari, coming home in second place. But the race winner in the penultimate race of the season, the defending champion Marcus Pommer and Valentino Catalano for Go Up Motorsport, taking their second win of the season.
Yeah, and remember, Marcus Pommer, with a different co-driver, Gary Hauser, last year, was the champion. So maybe that experience, and he has a lot of experience, Marcus Pommer, not just in these types of cars, but in all types of cars. A former German F3 champion 10 years ago. Maybe all of that experience might just come into play. He drove very well, didn't he, in the first stint? Marcus Pommer essentially got that lead of the race early on, and then they were just able to hold off Chiara Alazari, who was the driver that started on pole. But for Chiara, still an excellent result. That is now his 5th podium of the season, and that's 5 podiums from the last 7 races. So even if he doesn't end up winning the championship, he still had a very strong debut season in the category, coming home in 2nd place. And Cirelli and Apotelos, a frustrating race, but they are still in contention as well. They will round out the podium.
And hopefully we'll see the podium in a minute on this glorious day here at the Sachsenring. The cars just heading back to their garages. I just saw the Klaus Abelin Fricadelli car driving itself back into the pits. I think the team will be tearing that one apart tonight, try and find out what went wrong and why it had to retire to the pits. We lost the number 80 car, of course, Maxim Durix as well. He's sharing that with Jakob Erlbacher. So the car's now heading back into the pits in a few moments. Hopefully we're going to bring you the podium, and we'll be able to see Valentino Catalano and Marcus Pommer celebrating their 2nd win. But the championship really very much alive and kicking. The junior championship was signed and sealed by Danny Sufi at the last event at the Nürburgring, but it could go in any direction. It's going to be a dash for the cash tomorrow. Very much that is the case for the final race of what has been a wonderful season. In the trophy championship, well, Antti Ramo and Torsten Kratz. Well, Torsten Kratz finished ahead of Antti Ramo in that race. I'm going to let you do the calculations, Chris, because
well, he's closed the gap, hasn't he?
He's certainly done that.
He got first. He gets 1.5 times the points because of his driver rating he gets 1 times the points as a silver-rated driver. So for the class win, essentially get 25 points. Antti Ramo finishes 2nd, but gets 1.5 times the points. So even though he finishes behind, he still gets 5 more points, I reckon. So the gap will grow by 5 points. It still remains pretty tight between them, but it really needs a disaster now for Antti Ramo. We had a pretty close disaster today, didn't he? But he's, I reckon, 39 clear. But yeah, just probably just about wrapping it up, I think, unofficially with that, because, yeah, you've only got 37.5 points potentially available for Torsten Kratz, even if he were to win and Ramo weren't to finish. I think that just about unofficially seals the deal now for Antti Ramo, despite a very frustrating race with that problem in the pits that he had. Yeah, I've been sat here trying to work it out as well, and I make it that Ramo potentially has sealed it, but we're not going to confirm that. We'll have to look on the website for that, or join us tomorrow. In the driver classification, it is so close though. Catalano and Pommer jump Sufi and Kratz at the top of the point standings. Apotelos and Cirelli still in contention. Chiana Alazari, good maths there, Chris, 24 points adrift as predicted in that 4th place. So it is between those 4 cars as the rest of the points are scrolling through. It is in the overall championship, 25 points for a win, 20 for 2nd, 16 for 3rd, and so on down the order. So definitely an awful lot to play for tomorrow. I think there's going to be a few shaky hands and fast beating hearts during qualifying tomorrow. Yeah, exactly right. After the whole season, all the work, all the hours that the team puts in between races, all the work they put in at the weekends, it's basically going to come down to 1 hour, the final hour of the season, isn't it? But before that, they've got to get through another qualifying session. And we've seen that this track can catch you out. It can bite if you get things ever so slightly wrong very quickly. The gravel traps have sucked a couple of drivers in that race, haven't they? So they won't be taking anything for granted, but an excellent day, an excellent weekend so far for Pommer and Catalano. Perfect timing to pick up their first win since the very first race of the season. As I say, they've been super consistent, those two, this year. And Marcus Pommer, his experience and the youthful exuberance and speed of Valentino Catalano, looking to be a very competitive pairing coming into that final race tomorrow. We always knew they were going to be a potent combination when they announced it at the beginning of this year, and we always knew they were going to be championship contenders, very confident, and they too felt as though they were in the best possible seats to win this championship. So moving to the top of the standings just when it matters the most. We're just waiting for the drivers to climb up the stairs in this glorious sunshine, early evening here at the Sachsenring in the Saxony countryside, at the track that is nicknamed the Mini Nordschleife for very good reason. And it's been a big crowd that have been here
today. They've enjoyed a fantastic DTM race. We've enjoyed Next Gen. We've enjoyed Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Germany, and we've very much enjoyed the rumble of Prototype Cup Germany. Hopefully we're about to enjoy the podium as the drivers will very shortly come out, join us and receive their trophies.
There'll be a lot of people there to cheer them on because the pit lane walkabout has just started for the fans of the DTM drivers. So the pit lane is just underneath that podium that you see. It's absolutely full now of fans. So it's going to feel like a real joy for those drivers on the podium for the Prototype Cup. They're going to be having a lot of people cheering them on from just below. But just to go back to how competitive it's been this season, Brian, we've had 11 races now. No pairing or no driver has won more than 2 races so far this year. So the wins have really been spread out, haven't they?
Absolutely, and that's been great. And we've had some real highlights. We've had some wonderful racing. We've had surprise winners. We had the wonderful guest edition of Ralf and David Schumacher and Nürburgring last time around. Back-to-back wins for them as well. It really has been a wonderful season, the 3rd season of the Prototype Cup Germany, organised by the ADAC in partnership with Creventic. And we've still got one more race to go tomorrow, and it is going to be a race which will have a lot of interest because there is a championship that is very much up for grabs. The duo who finish in front are most likely going to be the ones that take the championship. Still a fair bit of waiting in the background for the drivers to come out on the podium, and I'm sure we're going to get that in a few minutes. Right, here we go. There's Toby Shimon, our the main man here in the ADAC, who does a lot of the announcements. Just introducing our drivers onto the podium. So, Riccardo Cirelli and Julian Apostolos. Took him a little while to get up there, didn't it? So there's Julian leading the way. Riccardo behind him, not looking overly delighted. It was a fairly traumatic race for them. There is Keanu Alizari, a real character and a real superstar in motorsport. But here comes Valentina Catalano and Marcus Pommer. As Pommer leading the way, and Catalano, understandably, very jubilant indeed behind. And we should have a representative from ADAC Motorsport as well. Oh, we're going to get the junior driver up as well. Well, that's them, isn't it? So Catalano, the winning junior driver. And now we will have a representative for the trophy winner. So that's Torsten Kratz, the fastest of the trophy category drivers. And now we get a representative from ADAC Motorsport onto the podium. We're going to need a bigger podium. So they all line up. And now the national anthem. So the national anthem done, and we'll wait for the trophies to be presented. But nobody up there looking overly confident because there's an awful lot to play for tomorrow. Catalano and Pommer receiving their first place trophies. Oh, it's Norbert Hag. There's a name from the past, former head of motorsports at Mercedes-Benz. Great to see him. He's always around the paddocks at DTM events. A real character and very much an encourager of all things that the ADAC do and organise. Peter Weidinger from the board of sport of the ADAC, presenting the 3rd place trophies to Julian Apostolos and Riccardo Cirelli. Torsten Kratz was the winning trophy driver. The winning junior driver was Valentina Catalano, so both of them will get a trophy for that. So Norbert presenting the trophy to Torsten. And then just the winning team trophy to be presented for Gebhardt Motorsport. So once again, Prototype Cup Germany entertains. We've had 11 races in the 2024 season. We are no closer to learning the identity, the exact identity of who the champion or champions are going to be. It's all going to come down to the very last race. That race will take place tomorrow afternoon at 3:15 local time. We'll be on air at about 3:10. I can hardly wait. It's going to be a dash for the cash here at the Sachsenring, the track that takes no prisoners. And we will then find out who is the champion of Prototype Cup Germany 2024. The celebration starts on the podium, but very, very shortly, our focus will turn to tomorrow, where it will all come to a conclusion, and we will find out who that champion, or indeed those champions, are going to be. Do not miss it. It's going to be a thrilling end to a thrilling season. We'll see you tomorrow.